This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a doctor or registered nutritionist, and I do not provide medical advice. You are advised to do your own research and make decisions in partnership with your healthcare provider. If you're pregnant, nursing, have a medical condition, or are taking any medication, please consult your physician and do not go off any medication without consulting with your healthcare provider. Nothing in this podcast should be relied upon to determine dietary changes, a medical diagnosis, or course of treatment. Welcome to the Slightly Greener Life podcast. This is your host, Tanya Harris. I am an award-winning environmental toxin expert, best-selling author, and mother of three. I created this podcast as a place to help busy moms ditch the overwhelm and start living a low-toxin life. Now, let's get into this week's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Slightly Greener Life. And I am so excited because we are on episode 20, believe it or not. We're back here in season 2, and I have some exciting interviews coming up, and of course, more healthy living tips. And something I've been keeping a little under wraps is coming very soon too, is, I guess I'll just say it, recently I have become Wellness Within Your Walls certified so that I can help clients when it comes to finding and using healthier building materials, as well as home furnishings, because I get asked a lot about furniture and paint and flooring. So I went and I got certified in that so I can make sure I'm giving you the best advice. And I'm also in the process of getting a diploma in interior decorating, also, believe it or not. And that's because over quarantine and when we were at home, I had always told my husband that I really think I would like to do some interior design or interior decorating if I wasn't doing this. And then I was thinking, why don't I combine the two? So what I'm going to do is combine my love for detoxing our homes, because I definitely still love that, but also to create beautiful spaces that are sustainable and eco-friendly and non-toxic. Because if you remember last week's episode, eco-friendly doesn't always mean a product is safer or non-toxic. So I really couldn't be more excited about all of this because I have found that once you start reducing toxic products in your home, you really find that you don't need as much to replace it. Cleaning products, for example. You really don't need a separate cleaner for each surface in your home. So once you pare it down to really just what you need and the products are non-toxic and not negatively affecting your indoor air, you'll really begin to notice how light your house can feel, if that makes sense. Like a calmer, healthier haven. So that's what I want to help you create in your home too, because once we get rid of these toxins, there's so much potential there. And really, home should just be a nice, safe place that you can come home to knowing that you're safe and healthy and just have a calm area to come home to. So anyway, I could go on and on about that, but I'll stop there because you'll be hearing more about it in the coming weeks. So today's episode is all about what I call hidden toxins. And we talk a lot about cleaning products, but today I'm going to go to our personal care and beauty products because there's quite a few examples of these hidden toxins, but today we'll stick to just a couple that are commonly found in personal care and beauty products. So these are what I call toxins that are contaminating a product, but that weren't actually added to the product. So I'll explain that here. So toxins can creep into personal care products through what I call hidden or sneaky toxins, where the toxic ingredient doesn't appear on the ingredient label, but the product can still be contaminated with it. There are a few examples of hidden toxins, but the two main ones I want to concentrate on today are typically found in personal care products. But again, like I said, sometimes they can also be in cleaning products. And they're not required to be listed on the labels because they are either in there because they are being produced by an ingredient and released into the product, or because they are a byproduct of the manufacturing process. So does that sound confusing? It is. But that's why I'm here. I've done the research so you don't have to. And I'll be telling you exactly which ingredients to be aware of so that you don't have to guess when you're out shopping and looking at labels. The two, and I might even sneak in a third hidden toxin that I'm going to be talking about today, are formaldehyde and 1,4-dioxane. The first one we'll talk about is formaldehyde. And yes, I'm talking about the same formaldehyde used in embalming fluid and in biology class to preserve frogs. And it's also a known cancer causer. But did you know that it may be in your favorite personal care products and cosmetics, even in your children's products? Probably not, because who would knowingly buy a formaldehyde-containing product? The answer is probably none of us. But you could be getting exposure still to formaldehyde through formaldehyde releasers. Formaldehyde releasers are chemicals used in cosmetics that decompose slowly over time to produce and release formaldehyde, which acts as a preservative for personal care products and cosmetics. Now, formaldehyde is a known human carcinogen, meaning that it is known to cause cancer, and it's also highly irritating to the skin, and it's also a strong skin sensitizer, meaning that it's likely to cause an allergic reaction in normal skin tissue with repeated exposure. And although formaldehyde releasers release formaldehyde in small amounts, these small amounts have still been shown to be highly irritating to the skin, and most likely we get multiple exposures of it per day through our personal care products and beauty products, our cleaning products, and even in our homes where it can be released through things like particle board and furniture and even some types of flooring. So again, you won't see formaldehyde listed on the label because formaldehyde itself hasn't technically been added as an ingredient, but you are still getting exposure to it through these ingredients that release it. So this is one of the many reasons why it's so important to learn how to read product labels. How do you know if formaldehyde could be lurking in your products? Unfortunately, the simple but not so convenient answer is by memorizing formaldehyde-releasing ingredients. So as always, if you're listening to me out and about, or if you don't have a pen and paper with you to take notes, I've got you. So just go to slightlygreener.com/episode 20 to get a downloadable cheat sheet with all of these ingredient names. So here are some of the common formaldehyde-releasing ingredients that you'll see on a label. The first one is DMDM-hydantoin. I hope I'm saying that, but I definitely know how to spell it, so it'll be right on the download. Diazolidinylurea, imidazolidinylurea, quaternium-15, and bronopol. So if you see these words on the ingredient list, you know that small amounts of formaldehyde are being released into the product. And it's in a lot of different personal care and beauty products. It's in things like baby wash even, liquid soap, shampoo, conditioner, face wash, lotion, body wash, nail glue, nail polish, makeup remover, can be in moisturizers, mascara, eyeshadow, and blush. So many different things. Shaving cream, just be on the lookout for it because it's in so many different products. And I know label reading can be overwhelming, so here's how I scan a label quickly for these ingredients. So some are easy to find with just a quick glance. Because formaldehyde releasers are preservatives, you'll typically find them somewhere between the middle and the end of the ingredient label. So I start by scanning the label for anything that says DMDM. The DMDM will be capitalized, so that's really easy to see. And then I also scan real quick for the number 15 to see if quaternium-15 is in there. And then next, I quickly scan for urea to see if there's any diazolidinylurea or imidazolidinylurea. Those are actually pretty easy to spot also. So when you're looking through these, sometimes you might even see two types of formaldehyde releasers in one product. So that would definitely be something that I recommend skipping. How and where you store your products that contain formaldehyde releasers also matters. A 2015 study on formaldehyde releasers in cosmetics found that the longer storage time and higher temperatures increase the amount of formaldehyde that's released into the products when it came to storing them. So always make sure that they're stored in a cool, dark place. Another thing to check for is something called a POA date. And this is a little different, but these products don't always need an expiration date, but most of them do have a POA date, which means period after opening. So this tells you how long a product is good for after you open it. And to find that POA symbol, you're going to look for a graphic that looks like an open cosmetics pot with a tilted lid, and it's used together with a number and typically the letter M. So for example, you might see that little pot with that tilted lid, and in the middle, it will have a 6M. This means that the product is good for 6 months after opening. A 12M would mean that it's good for 12 months, and so on. So I will put a picture of this on my website too at slightlygreener.com/episode 20 so you can see what it looks like. And I went through my cosmetics, and sometimes on mascara, it's like on the bottom and it can be tiny. So something I also recommend doing is maybe bringing up a black Sharpie and a gray or white Sharpie into your bathroom and just marking on that item. So that's why I like to bring up a white item too, because I have some darker colored bottles that don't show up the other Sharpies. So just marking on there when you opened them so that you know when to toss them, because you definitely don't want to be using expired makeup. So that is it for formaldehyde releasers. The next ingredient of concern that is also a hidden toxin is 1,4-dioxane. But just like formaldehyde releasers, you won't know this chemical is in a product unless you know what to look for, because this ingredient won't be listed on the label either. It's considered to be a byproduct of the manufacturing process. So while 1,4-dioxane hasn't been added to the product, you still may be getting exposure to it. So our biggest exposure to 1,4-dioxane is through personal care and beauty products, but it can also be found in cleaning products. And recently, New York State has banned cleaning products and personal care products that contain 1,4-dioxane over 2 parts per million. And in December, that number will be lowered to 1 part per million. So you might have heard about New York State banning certain laundry detergents. There were other things that were banned also, but that's why, because they did have over this amount of 1,4-dioxane in those cleaning products. So 1,4-dioxane is a byproduct of a process called ethoxylation, where ethylene oxide, which is a known cancer causer, is added to other chemicals to make them less harsh. So an example of making a chemical less harsh is sodium lauryl sulfate, which is in many of our personal care products, such as shampoo and toothpaste. It's known to be harsh and very irritating on the skin, so it is sometimes converted into the less harsh sodium lauryl sulfate through that ethoxylation process using ethylene oxide. And this is where 1,4-dioxane contamination can occur. And since 1,4-dioxane is a byproduct of that process, it's not directly added to the product, so it doesn't have to be listed on the label. 1,4-dioxane is toxic to the liver, kidneys, and respiratory system, and are linked to respiratory and eye irritation. It's also listed by several sources such as the EPA, the Internal Agency for Research on Cancer, and the Department of Health and Human Services as a probable human carcinogen, meaning that it's likely to cause cancer in humans. And ethylene oxide, which is what is used in this process, is also a known human cancer causer, and it can also cause health effects in the nervous system with reported symptoms of headache, numbness, and memory loss, as well as some emerging evidence that the inhalation of ethylene oxide may increase the rate of miscarriage in females. And animal research is showing links to other negative reproductive and developmental effects. It can also affect the lungs, may cause skin irritation, and may damage the liver and kidneys. So I don't know about you, but that definitely doesn't sound like I want to be exposed to, and especially not my family being exposed to. So how do you know if 1,4-dioxane and possibly this ethylene oxide is lurking in your products? Again, the answer is by memorizing the ingredients that can be contaminated with these two. So things like sodium lauryl sulfate and then polyethylene glycol ingredients, which you'll normally see as PEG. And PEG, again, is easy to find because it's usually all capitalized. Anything that's ethoxylated or ethoxylated alcohols. And then ingredients that end in ETH, and some of these are olith, satirith, myrrh, laureth that you'll see commonly on the label, and ingredients that end in oxynol. Again, don't worry about writing those down. Just visit the webpage and you'll see all of these ingredients listed there. And you'll find these in so many different products too. Things like baby wash, bubble bath, sunscreen, baby shampoo, shaving cream, shampoo, toothpaste, liquid soaps. So many different things. And I think that looking for ingredients that can be contaminated with 1,4-dioxane are easy to spot on a label. So I like to scan labels quickly for sodium lauryl sulfate. And if the product has it, I don't have to look any further. So this is the ingredient that helps things like shampoos and toothpaste and soaps foam. And so that's usually listed within the first few ingredients. So it's really easy to spot if you have a product that gets foamy and sudsy like toothpaste or shampoo. But some of these PEG ingredients are located anywhere on the label. So they're a little bit, actually, I don't think they're harder to find because again, PEG is capitalized. So that's the next thing I look for is PEG. And then after that, I start to look for how many ETH different ingredients there are on a label like satirith and myrrh and olith. And sometimes you'll be surprised at how many of these ingredients can be in one product. There is a simple way to get rid of the 1,4-dioxane, and that's by vacuum stripping. But companies don't typically disclose whether they do or don't do the vacuum stripping. So these ingredients are just something that I recommend avoiding altogether because it's just really hard to tell, have they truly been removed or not? And just like with formaldehyde releasers, there could be multiple exposures to 1,4-dioxane and ethylene oxide per day through the many personal care products and cleaning products that we use each day. And we don't know if they have a cumulative effect or what the effects are when they interact with other chemicals. There's just so many different unknowns. So for time's sake, I won't name all of these ingredients again. And because some of the names can be confusing when you're listening to them, So again, just be sure to visit slightlygreener.com/episode 20 to get the cheat sheet with all of these ingredients listed there and where you can commonly find them. I realize that all of this does sound a little bit doom and gloom, and it can be really frustrating to learn this information, especially when we realize a label really isn't just a label, and so many different ingredients can hide under different names on a label. Like fragrance, for example, which we know can be made up of dozens of different chemicals that don't have to be disclosed on a label. Seriously, sometimes it feels like you need a doctorate to read a simple product label. But the good news is that I'm here to do the research for you, and I love reading labels and finding out if a product is truly safer or if it just has confusing and misleading claims. But the good news is that there are a lot of companies out there that are responding to consumer demand for these safer products and laws like the one in New York that is starting to ban products that contain these ingredients. Not to mention all of the companies out there that already have products that don't contain these ingredients. We have more choices than we've ever had before, and I think that is so exciting. And that's it for this week. I am super excited for next week's show because I'll be talking about kids and toxic chemicals along with healthy solutions to give our kids the healthiest jumpstart we can. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and as you may know, I am a childhood leukemia survivor. Last year was my 40-year anniversary, so just reached 41 this year. So this is a cause that is very close to my heart and has played such a big role in what I do today. I'll also be doing a Green Beginnings segment on my social media platforms for the next month. So I'll have a lot of tips and tricks there to keep kids and the entire family safe and healthy. So be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm Slightly Greener on all three of those platforms. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Slightly Greener Life podcast. Please take a moment to subscribe to the show. And then be sure to share it with a friend who you know wants simple steps to living in this complex world. I'll see you next time.